This is a topic that I've wanted to explore for a very, very long time. And almost as soon as I started, I said, oh my gosh, it's so obvious. And for me, this was very exciting, and I want to share it with you. If 1/10 of my excitement comes across to you, this class is going to be interesting. If not, then it'll be boring. I want to start with this. Okay, this week is Parsha Bechukosai, which means we finished Sefer Vayikra, as I'm sure you know. And we're going to say Chazak this week, Mitzvah Hashem. And one of the ideas that dominates these parshas are Nidrim, vows. Nidrim are in the Chumash in many places. There's more than one place in the Chumash where you have Nidrim. Of course, there's a parsha called Machon. It has a whole section on Nidrim. You have a few other places in Sefer Dvarim where the words Nidrim and Nidavis are used by Karbonos. But perhaps more than any place else in the Chumash, in these parshas, Bechukosai, you have many, many of the halachas of Nidrim. The meaning of a neder is that you as a private citizen take something which is not holy and make it holy yourself. It's a power that the Eibishter gave us. Right, when the Eibishter built the Beis HaMikdash, Hashem told us to build the Beis HaMikdash. The Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash was established by the Eibishter, by the Melech, by the Kohen Gadol, by the Navi, by the Sanhedrin. The whole Jewish people together gave holiness to the Beis HaMikdash. And the same is true when we call Karbanos Tzibur, communal offerings. The Karbanos that are brought for everybody, the whole Tzibur together brings a Karban. The Nidrim and Nidavis, the idea of making a ned, making a vow, is that a person can take something which is not holy and make it holy. Sometimes a person takes something which is not holy and makes it holy. It's only holy for him, but for the next guy it's still not holy. And sometimes you make something which is not holy and it becomes holy for everybody. And if somebody else would use it inappropriately, he would also have a shayla that was mayil behektish. So in Yiddishkeit there is a concept that people, Jews, were given a power to take things that the Eibishter put in this world that are choil, that are plain, that are ordinary, that are not holy, and you have the power, using words, to give them holiness. Now I might as well throw this in, that there's a rule in halacha that says that if you want to do something, you have to have an action. For example, if I want to sell you a house and you want to buy that house from me, all the words in the world do not complete the sale until there is a kinyan. There has to be a behavior. To affect a change in this world, you need to do an action. The exception to that rule is when it comes to Nidrim. Anything which has to do with holiness, words are enough to make something holy. So if I'm struggling with my cell phone and I say that I'm making a neder in relation with my phone, I just use words, I didn't do an action. So the power of words when it comes to neder is the equivalent of the power of action when it comes to most things, because Nidrim are connected to condemn. Nidrim are connected to karbanos. So again, in short, what's a neder? The idea that a person, a single person, a private citizen can take something which is not holy and make it holy, and he can do it using words, not actions, words. So I have a list of a variety of different categories of Nidrim. I'm sure I'm missing a few. I wrote this list this afternoon, but this is probably a partial list. But here goes. The first category of Nidrim and Nidavis is you take an animal, and you say Harei zu oila or Harei alai oila. If I go over to a sheep and I say Harei zu oila, this sheep is oila, it's called a Nidava. Nidava means that if this sheep dies, I don't have to get another one. But if I say Harei alai oila, then I'm bringing on me an oila. So if this sheep were to die, I have to replace it with a different sheep. It's called a Nidava. I'm giving one animal to the Beis HaMikdash, and if for some reason that animal becomes unfit, I don't have to replace it, and then there's a neder. Harei alai oila. If I say I'm bringing a carbon oila, and the animal that I designated for that carbon became unfit, or it died, or it was stolen, or whatever the case is, I have to replace it. Now understand, a chatos I can only bring if I'm a chuyev. An asham I can only bring if I'm a chuyev. A shlamim and an oila I could bring b'nei b'nadav. I decide I want to bring a carbon, so I have a right to say this animal, or I am obligating myself This is the first level of vows. The first level of vows is where I take something unholy and I make it holy in the form of a korban. If I make something unholy holy in the form of a korban, if you violate it, there's a shayla of me'ilah. You didn't say it, but when I make something holy using words, it becomes holy for everybody. This is category number one. Then the category number two. What's category number two? I make a neder for something which is not a korban. For example, if I have a diamond ring, I can say this diamond ring is holy. You cannot put a diamond ring on the mizbeach. So usually, if I were to make something ordinary, holy, using words, this diamond ring is holy, this house is holy, this field is holy, this treifa animal is holy. So it's called Kedushas Domim. The holiness is not on the body of the thing, but the financial worth, the monetary worth. And then it would be redeemed with money. If I donated a diamond ring, it will be redeemed with money, and the diamond ring would become a chulin in the person who redeemed it, and the money would go to tzedakah. And usually, when you say tzedakah, in this case, it's called bedek habayis. Bedek habayis means the upkeep of the Beis Hamikdash. It's the second category of nedarim. The first category of nedarim is when I'm making something holy as a korban. It's called kedushas haguf. The body of that animal has a kedusha. And the second is where I'm donating something. I'm not just donating. I'm making it holy. That if I or somebody else is going to use it inappropriately, b'shayla of me'ilah, which means I'm going to have to bring a korban, I have to add a fifth, because you're not allowed to be moil behektish. It's a real halacha. If you take hektish and you use it for your own personal use, you have to pay it back plus 25%. So if you made a watch is a bad example. If you made, I don't know what, let's use a watch holy, and I use it for my personal use, I mean, it becomes the shayla what the watch is still there, right? But if I use something which is holy for my own personal use, I have to pay the damage plus 25%, and in some cases I have to bring a korban for violating what's called hektish. This applies to kedushas haguf, and it applies to kedushas dam. It's the second category of a neder. So these two categories are I take something which is not holy and I make it holy. Then there's a third category of nedarim, and this is probably the one which is most applicable nowadays. Okay, and by the way, while we're talking, I'm not an expert in these halachas, but when there is a minyan in shul and they're selling aliyas, and people bid on aliyas, so first of all, it's Yom Tif, and all you do is words, right? There's no kinyan. The halacha is if you bid an aliyah and you win the bid, you are bound by halacha to pay that bid, even though you only use words, because when it comes to tzedakah, amirasa legavaya k'mesinasa lehedyet. But there's even svarim will say, holy books will say, lo yachel devari, do not make your words chulin, which means that if you bid on an aliyah and you didn't win, somebody else outbid you, there's an argument to be made that since you said you're going to give so much money to tzedakah, that you should give it even without winning the aliyah. I'm not telling you to do this, but there is such a concept. Because the words, when it comes to hektish, have the same authority as normally would be required to do an act. Now, but then there's another category of nedarim, and this is very different because it's personal. This is what it says in the Mishnah, Pirkei Avos, nedarim syag laprisha. If people struggle with certain things, again, the cell phone is a perfect example. If people struggle with certain things, one of the ways of helping themselves overcome that struggle is to make a neder. I make a neder that between this hour and this hour I'm not going to go on my phone. Now understand, if you make such a neder and you violate that neder, it's a very big aveda. It's better not to make the neder and make the neder and violate the neder. But the Mishnah says people make nedarim for precious. If they want to separate themselves from something which is challenging themselves, they take on a neder. They vow to stay away from that particular thing as a means of protecting themselves from doing an actual aveda. This is called nedarim. So anybody can take a neder about anything. There's a chap when it comes to nedarim that you have to be matfis. You can't just say, I'm never using my cell phone. That wouldn't be called a neder. That would be called a shvua, which is very different halachas. If I wanted to say that this phone is like for me like a neder, I would have to say this phone is to me like a korban. You have to compare it to kedusha. And when I say this phone is to me like a korban, then this phone becomes a korban. I'm not allowed to use it or whatever the particular the nedarim are. It's the third category of nedarim where people take personal vows to stop themselves from getting into spiritual trouble. And this is different. If I make a neder, then I'm not going to use my phone between the hours of 11 at night and 7 in the morning. it doesn't mean you can't, because the neder was made for me and not for everybody. This is the third category of neder. It's not a carbon. It's simply saying I'm struggling with a certain issue, and the way I'm helping myself to struggle, I'm going to make a fence. I'm going to keep myself away from it to protect myself from it. And of course, you know how you make a neder, right? If you have a weakness, I knew a person who had a cocaine habit many, many years ago. And they told me that you never take cocaine straight. You mix it with another solution. And that other solution is very cheap. You can buy it in the drugstore over the counter. And they had this other solution in the house. I said, I don't understand. If you don't want to do cocaine, throw out the other solution. He says, no. How could you? If you're serious about not doing cocaine, why do you have the thing that's going to help you take the cocaine? He says, Rabbi, in case I must. You see the point? In other words, there was not a real commitment. Because if you take cocaine straight, it'll kill you. You have to mix it with something else. The other thing they kept around just in case they would fail their test. But that's what a neder is. You do something to protect yourself from going to something else which is problematic for you. A person can make a neder unto himself privately. Now the halachas of neder, as I mentioned, are that Rambam writes it's better not to make a neder and fail. You have no chiyuv to make nedarim. And you have to really do it for the right reasons. And if a person makes a neder, they got to keep it. If you made a vow, you have to keep it. Okay, Shimshon Agiba.
The way you worded it doesn't sound like you make things that you couldn't technically make a carbon now a vow. Like you can't say this brothel is like a carbon. That doesn't sound right.
So this is a different shayla. Can you be nishbal mashakosu b'Torah? Can I make a vow about something which the Eibishter already has a commandment about? Now the shayla is usually asked not the way you asked it. The shayla is usually asked, if I make an oath that I'm not going to do a mitzvah, am I part of doing the mitzvah because my neder outweighs the Eibishter's chiyuv? Or does the Eibishter's chiyuv come first and my neder doesn't work? I'm not going to go into all the particulars, but this is the difference between a neder and a shvua. If I make a shvua, so you're not allowed to make a shvua mashkosa b'teira. So if I make a shvua, again, just says, if I swear I'm not going to eat in the sukkah, I'm a choiv to eat in the sukkah. But if I make a neder making in sukkah, I don't make a neder making in sukkah. I make a neder that sukkah is asa to me. The difference in shvua and neder is gavod and chefza. If it's on me or it's on the thing. So practically, a neder you could make against what's written in the Torah, and a shvua you can't. So there's a lom de sheteretz to your kasha. There is a concept where you make a shvua about something which isn't the Torah. Even though the Rebbe already told me I should sit in the sukkah, I'm going to swear to sit in the sukkah. It's called the al-dvar mitzvah, to strengthen your resolve, even though it's not a real neder, because you're already nishba v'emed mehar Sinai. You understand? Yishai, yeah, just making sure, Yishai, yeah. Make sure I remember your name. Yeah, go ahead. I'm a nudnik. Go ahead.
A neder and a resolution are the same thing?
No.
So
a neder is binding. A neder means if you ever the neder, you didn't have Ada.
So if I say I'm not going to use my phone between the hours of 8 and 9.
That's a achlata. But if you say, I'm saying it with the koyach of a neder, and the only way to do that is that between the hours of 8 and 9, my phone is like a korban, and you're a lav.
You say like for tomorrow?
You could say it for a time.
Like I could say, only when you say it as a carbon.
Right, like a korban.
Only when you use like a carbon is it a neder.
Right, and that's why people do it, because they know that when they really mean it, they want to really hold themselves to it. It's a very tricky thing. When I was younger, about certain things I made nedarim in my own personal life, and I regret it. Because I think at least once I failed. It helped me, but to make nedarim, you have to really, really plan on keeping it. It's not a joke.
So if you say like I swear to God, that would be it.
You see, there's a word. I keep using the word vow. There's a difference between a neder and a shvua. A shvua we're going to call an oath. A neder we call a vow. The difference is, when I swear, I say, I swear that I won't do this. When I say neder, I say, I vow that this is asa to me. A neder is never I. It's always this thing. I cannot make a neder about something that doesn't exist. I cannot make a neder that when the esregim come next year, I'm going to not buy an esrog from these trees. Because you can't make a neder on something that doesn't exist, because you make neder on the thing. Shvua you make on yourself. And there's all kinds of nafminas halacha between the two. Now, what's a fourth category of neder? A fourth category is our parsha. It's classic neder, But it's a neder which has what's called Gzeres HaKos. The Torah fixes it. And in Parsha Bechukosai, you have a bunch of nadarim that are in this category. They're called erchin. Erchin. Erchin means a person says erchi alai. So normally if I say I'm going to give my value, my monetary value to tzedakah, you have to go to a slave market and you have to evaluate what I'm worth and have to get how much tzedakah. So if I say dummy alai, I'm going to give my financial worth to tzedakah, and you say dummy alai, both of us have to find people who can evaluate the financial value of a person, and each person pays what he's worth. Erech is different. The Torah gives specific amounts. From the age of 5 till the age of this, from 30 days to 5, if you're a boy, you're worth 5 shekel. If you're a girl, you're worth 3 shekel. From 5 till 20 is different. The financial worth of a person is fixed by Gzeres HaKosov. Erchin. It's fixed by Gzeres HaKosov. That when you make a specific kind of neder, which is called an erech, the Torah says how much you have to give. It doesn't matter if you're worth millions of dollars, if you're worth 10 cents. When a person says erki alai, or erech pleni alai, I'm making your erech on me. So the halacha is that you have to give a fixed amount, which is written in the Chumash in our Parsha. The halachas of erech apply to stei chuzah also. If I say erech sadazu alai, so you have to give, there's a fixed amount written in the Chumash, Chamishim shekel kesef for I forgot the amounts for there's a fixed amount of money that you have to give for every base court, for every field of a particular size, and it's a Gzeres HaKosov. It could be the best field, it could be the worst field. If I say erech sadazu alai, you have to give a fixed amount. It's called erech. So sometimes I can donate something to the Beis HaMikdash and you have to know its real value. Sometimes I donate to the Beis HaMikdash and you have to give a fixed value written in the Chumash, which is the 4th category of nadarim, which is called arochin. Now the 5th category of erech is nazirus. Nazirus is a neder. Ish ki yafle linder nazir la'avai. A nazir is a menader. The thing about a nazir is you can't pick and choose. If you make a neder to be a nazir, number 1, you're a nazir at least for 30 days. Number 2, it can't be halfway. You're not allowed to drink wine, you're not allowed to cut your hair, and you're not allowed to be the mason. You can't say, I'm a nazir just to not cut my hair, but I'll drink wine to the mason. If you accept nazirus, the Eibishter sets all the terms of the neder. And that makes nazirus unique. It's also a neder, it's a neder the person takes upon himself. But the Torah fixes the precise criteria for that neder of nazirus. And I just want to throw this in, that the Gemara says, Rashi brings it in Chumash, why would a person make a neder not to drink wine? Because he's tested by Gilui Arayos. If you see a woman who's a Saita, she fell in with Gilui Arayos, so the Mishnah says, Yayin, when people drink wine, they lose their inhibition and they can do Averis. So if you witness the person who drank wine and led to a weakened inhibition, you should take a neder not to drink wine. The Gemara brings a person who says, I'm not going to drink wine, is told, don't walk by the liquor store. Go on a different street. Avoid it. Protect yourself against falling in. So the 5th category of nazirus, the 5th category of neder is nazirus. Go ahead.
Avoiding it, like sickness and stuff.
Yeah. Anybody who's been involved in the 12 steps seriously knows how extreme they are. It's mamish like a deiraisa. They're so strict. Yeah, you should not be, if people, listen, if you can do it, you can do it. If you can't do it, you should not be in an environment of vulnerability. Absolutely. Now, all of this took me 20 minutes, 30 seconds, is not what I wanted to talk about tonight. What I want to talk about is a 6th type of neder, which is meant in the Chumash in our Parsha. It's also mentioned again by the Matnas Kahuna in Parshas Kairach, and it always drove me mad. And the 6th kind of a neder is called a Achei Temimim. I say, Sadazu Achei Temimim. This field is Achei Temimim. What does Achei Temimim mean? So it bothered me. The word Achei Temimim, it's in our Parsha 3 times. In Kapitel Chav Zayin, Pasuk Chav Aleph, Pasuk Chav Zayin, and Pasuk Chav Ches. The word Achei Temimim appears in our Parsha 3 times. And the word Achei Temimim always bothered me. And I had this desire to research it. What is the meaning of Achei Temimim? What does it mean that a person makes a neder calling it a cheder? Now let me add something to you. There is two types of charames. There's cherme shamayim and there's cherme koyanim. Cherme shamayim means I say this is a cherem to the Eibishter. This phone is a cherem to the Eibishter. If I say this phone is cherem to the Eibishter, so it comes hektish. Hektish sells it, you get your phone back and you give him money. But if I say cherem zel koyanim, this object is being called a neder using the form of cherem, and I give it to the koyanim, I never get it back. Cherem koyanim, I never get it back. There's nothing I can do to get it back. If I made something cherem to the koyanim, it's never mine again. Even if I took a seiachuz, a field which was mine as an inheritance, because of my shevet. If I make it a cherem to koyanim, it's lost forever. If I make a cherem to the Eibishter, I can redeem it and get it back. The machlokes in the Gemara is as follows. Stam charames. If I said the word cherem and I didn't specify, is it l'koyanim or is it l'shamayim? And the halacha is stam charames l'koyanim. Rashi brings it in our parsha. But the halacha is, if I say the word cherem, if I say cherem l'koyanim, it's not to the koyanim. And if I give it to the kohen, I'll never get it back. If I say cherem l'shamayim, it's a regular hektish. I can buy it back by giving money. The hektish gets the money, I get the item back. But if I say stam cherem, I don't say whether it's l'gavoya or it's l'koyanim. The halacha is stam cherem is l'koyanim. And it always bothered me, what does this word cherem mean? So I started to prepare tonight's class. I started with Rashi. And Rashi doesn't say anything very dramatic. Rashi simply says that cherem means that if I'm giving it to the kohen, I can never get it back. There's one other thing which Rashi said that I'm going to get back to later, but I didn't find anything incredibly dramatic in Rashi. But it was Rashi that led me to be uncomfortable with the word cherem, and I'll tell you why. Because Rashi uses the word cherem in two very, very different ways. Number one, if I take this phone, I say this phone is cherem, so it goes to koyanim. If I say this phone is cherem l'shmayim, it goes to the Eibishter. Yeah. But the Rashi explains the word cherem in a very different way. He says cherem means a human being who is going to die. First, in Kapitel Chof Zayin, Pasuk Chof Tes, it says in the Pasuk, Kol cherem asher yachara min ha'adam. Any cherem amongst people, la yipada should not be redeemed. Mais yumas, it needs to die. So Rashi says, if a person is going to be killed in Bezdin, and that person says, Erki Alai, my financial worth is on me, doesn't have to pay a penny because a dying person is a dead person has no value, it's going to the Eibishter. So the word cherem is used in Chumash as a word which denotes a shvua, a vow, and the word cherem is used in Chumash to denote a person whose life has no value, he's dead already. Bezdin is about to execute him, he's called cherem, he's meant to die, and any person who's meant to die is for all intents and purposes dead, so he has no if he gives his own monetary value or somebody else gives his monetary value, they're part. And it's been bothering me for years. So I looked through Rashi, and then I decided to look in the Sefer HaChinuch. And it was hit by a thunderbolt. It's so simple and so obvious. I just want to repeat the context. There are many different cases in the Chumash for Nedarim. There's many different ways a person can use words to personally take something which is not holy, and using words make it holy. Either for everybody, if it's a carbon, or only for himself, if it's another kind of neder. Rabbi said the meaning of the word cherem is, I take any item in the world and I say, this item I'm destroying. Like you have in Chumash, that the Jewish people had a war, and they're having a very hard time winning the war, and the Jewish people said, if we win, we're going to make a cherem out of their cities. They won the war and they burnt the whole place to the ground. Cherem means to destroy, destruction. That's what the word means. Cherem means to destroy things completely. That's what the meaning of the word cherem is. So you have a cherem, which is a neder. I'm dealing with a certain weakness, and I say, this watch, this phone for me is a cherem. Cherem means it's burnt to crisp. That's the meaning of the word. I'm destroying it. So if a person makes something into a cherem, if he makes it a cherem to the Beis Hamikdash, he can buy it back. If a person makes some chedem to the kohenim, it's gone to him. The meaning of the word chedem is to destroy something completely, which immediately explains the connection between the two ideas. I can use words to give something to the Eibishter. When I am making a chedem, I'm not giving it to the Eibishter. When I am making a chedem, I'm actually destroying something. There's a catch, however. This is what the chinuch is explaining. The chinuch says as follows, that the Jewish people are different than all the other nations. The Jewish people are different than all the other nations. How are they different? That they have a personal relationship with the Eibishter. The nature of Jewish people's personal relationship with the Eibishter is that we get things directly from him. The Goyim have what's called mazalos, and the Jewish people get everything directly from the Eibishter. So if God gave a Jew something, and that Jew says, I don't like it, and he says, I'm chedeming it, which means for all intents and purposes, I'm taking this item and I'm destroying it, the chinuch writes, the Eibishter gave you something personally, and you decide that you don't like it, so you declare you're going to destroy it. You can destroy it from yourself, you can't destroy it completely. So it automatically goes back to the Eibishter who gave it to you in the first place. That's the chinuch's chap. The meaning of chedem, the meaning of the word, I'm not making a vow to give this to the Beis Hamikdash. The meaning of chedem means I want to destroy something. I want to destroy my field, I want to destroy my house, I want to destroy my phone, I want to destroy whatever it is I want to destroy. Your intent is to destroy. The din in Torah is that when you use words that denote you want to destroy something, the Eibishter says you don't have that power. Because he gave it to you, I gave it to you. If you don't want it, I take it back. That's the concept of the chedem. So chedem is a very different concept of a neder. Chedem doesn't mean I'm swearing to give this to the Beis Hamikdash because I want to give tzedakah, or I'm swearing I want to give the Beis Hamikdash because I want to have self-control. Chedem means I want to destroy this thing. But the Eibishter says you cannot destroy it completely. You can only destroy your relationship with it, but you can't destroy the item. The item belongs to me. So when you make a chedem that you want to destroy a certain item, the Eibishter says, as far as you're concerned, it's destroyed. In reality, you're not allowed to destroy it. I take it back. And that's the pshat chedem koyenim. I have a field, a stei achuzah, a field which I inherited to my ancestors because of my shevet, and I got into some kind of a mood, and I donated that field. So I have a right to buy it back till hektish, till yovel. But if I chedem that field, to me that field doesn't exist anymore. And it becomes the kohenim's, and when yovel comes, the kohenim keep it, and there's no way I can buy it back. Because when I chedemed it, to me, it's completely destroyed. That explains the consistency of the word. We use chedem to destroy a dead person, a dying person who's considered dead halachically, and we use chedem to describe a matana, hektish. How do you use the same word to know two different things? The answer is the word chedem doesn't mean I'm donating anything to anybody. The word chedem means I want to destroy. So a dying person, the Eibush is destroying, so he gets killed, and therefore he has no monetary value, and therefore he can't give his own financial worth to the Beis Rivka. He has no financial worth. But when a person says about anything he owns, I want to make this into a chedem, he's not really saying, I want to donate to the Beis Hamikdash. He's really saying, I wanted to destroy it. Says the Sefer HaChinuch, you can destroy it halfway, as far as your ownership is concerned. You can't destroy it completely because it doesn't belong to you, so it boomerangs. It automatically goes back to the Kohanim. There's one exception, however. There's one exception to this rule. And the exception to this rule is if I make a chedem out of something which never belonged to me. If I make a chedem out of something which never belonged to me, it's not mine. Now understand what the meaning of those words is. It never belonged to me means God didn't give it to me. Because the chinuch says the foundation of haramis means everything I had I got personally from him. So when I want to destroy something, Hashem says I'm taking it back. You can destroy it in relation with yourself, you can't altogether. But there's one exception. If something was never mine. For example, when the Jews are fighting with non-Jews, and they swear that at the end of this battle, they're going to make chedem out of that property, here we don't say it goes to the kohenim. Here we say it's actually destroyed. Because if the item belongs to a yid, and a yid is machrimit, he can only be machrimit from his relationship with himself, but the Eibush that gave it to him, the Eibush takes it back. But if it belonged to a non-yid, so here the halachas of chedem are literal. When people would fight wars, Now, how you deal with this in the modern world is another question. But this is the Torah. When they're fighting wars and they make a chedem, they bring three examples. They bring the example of Pelegish Begiva, tragic stories. They give the example of Yiftach HaGeladi and his daughter, and they give the example of Yonasan ben Shaul and the war, where people made charames, and the position was, first make a chedem, you have to destroy the person, and whatever the halachas of how these things were addressed. In the case of Pelegish Begiva, they killed a bunch of people because they made a chedem and they violated the chedem. So the idea is that when you make a chedem about something which isn't yours, and the meaning of the word chedem means, I'm not giving it to the Eibush, I want it to be destroyed. So then you have the authority to make a chedem, and it's actually destroyed. This is what the Chinuch says.
I can just apparently someone else's thing and now they have to destroy it.
It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to me. I can't make somebody else's thing. When there's a war, and I'm fighting with an enemy, and I swear if I will defeat this enemy, I will make chedem out of what that person owns. That's the case. So you're making the chedem before it becomes yours to destroy it. When it becomes yours, then we don't say that it goes to the kohen and then you actually destroy it. Half-credit doesn't mean destroying it.
But you have nothing to do with it.
Okay.
You by God. You say you want nothing to do with it.
So God still owns it. Chedem means I want to destroy it. Nobody should have it. Not just me. Nobody should have it. Nobody should have it. I'm taking it back to me. Back to me is kohen. Hefker really means I'm giving it to everybody. Hefker doesn't mean I'm giving it to nobody. Hefker means I'm giving it to everybody. And anybody else can pick it up and take it. Go ahead.
Would it be problematic if I made a chedem on something that I own with someone else?
Of course it'll be a problem. Of course it'll be a problem. Yeah, so half of it belongs to the base, to the kohenim. Half belongs to that person, and then it becomes very tricky how you would address that question. Sure.
Does the chedem have any holiness to it? Or just it stays?
It's theirs forever.
Can I sell it off to someone else? Or they have to
I think they can sell it.
So why can't the person really buy it back? Why couldn't you kind of get it right back? I would make a chedem out of a check.
You know what? I need to remember if that's true or not. The kohen has no obligation to sell it back to you. You can't come and say, it's mine, I want to buy it back. Like if you makdash your field, you want your field back. That authority you don't have. The kohenim selling charamis, I think maybe he can't. I don't remember. Shimshon, go ahead.
His question: if your kids are taught Shalom, they still want to do it. How this?
Head. In the Gemara, there's two classic expressions. Lei b'shuftan askina, v'lei b'shi askina. We don't deal with idiots and we don't deal with evil people. Take those two issues out. Do you still have your question? The answer to your question is, the good news about Nadarim is that there's something called Hataras Nadarim.
You do a Torah.
I believe by in Cheder you can do Hataras. It's a form of a neder. Even though the nature of the neder is I'm destroying it for everybody, but I think it's a neder. But I'm not sure about that either. The Ramban adds one more chap to this whole parsha. And that is that the Ramban said that the word chedem has two translations and not one. Chedem means that I want this destroyed and nobody should have it. So again, there's all of the halachas that we just discussed. That if I make something which is mine, a chedem, the Eibishter gets it because I can only destroy my half, not his half that goes to kohenim. V'chulu, as we discussed earlier. That a chedem is also miloshen shvua. Where people made a chedem was also served as a vow. So in other words, chedem means I'm destroying something, but in addition to chedem means destroying the chedem also means I'm swearing in relationship with something. And the nature of a chedem is that if I made a shvua, made a vow, a shvua means an oath, right? I mean, what's meant a vow and an oath? It's English words, but the difference in a neder and a shvua is neder is cheftzeh, and shvua is gavra. And shvua means I'm making it on myself. Neder I'm making on an item. If a person makes a shvua with a chedem and he doesn't keep it, he's chayav misa. Chedem means I want to destroy, and when a person makes a vow in the form of a chedem, he's basically saying, I'm making a vow that if I don't do kach v'kach, I am destroyed. And we find stories in Tanakh where charames were made, even publicly. In other words, not even I made the chedem. The community made a chedem, and someone didn't keep the chedem, and api halacha. They had to be put to death. They had to find all kinds of ways of getting around it. Yonis and Ben Shaul, they wanted to kill him. Because Shaul made a chedem that nobody should eat anything until they finish a certain battle. And Yonis was exhausted, and he was starving. And he dipped his finger into honey. He was over the chedem, and they wanted to push and kill him. Api halacha v'choyev misa. Because a chedem is a shvua, it's a vow or an oath, which can even be made by the community, on the whole community, whether you like it or not, that if you violate the shvua, you push it chayev misa. And the Tanakh explains why they made the exception out of Shaul. There's 3 different stories in the Tanakh that give examples for this, and one of them is the story of Rames Begilad, that they actually killed a whole bunch of people. I opened up the book of Shoftim. One of the most tragic stories in the whole Tanakh is the story of Pelegesh Begivah. This story it's upsetting beyond words for many reasons. And when it's all over, they killed a bunch of people who were on their team, on the winning team, because they were not mishtatif. Based on a chedem that was made, halachically, they had to put them to death. Very painful story. So the second Taish, the word chedem, that chedem means also a shvua. I make a shvua that if I violate the shvua, I'm a chedem. I'm destroyed. And the last thing he says is that the word chedem is a generic term for many things. It could mean that a person who's given a death sentence is mukhram, a person is going to die because of the bezdin is in a state of chedem, he's already dead. It could mean that something which we don't own, we're fighting with an enemy, and we make a chedem that if we win, we're going to destroy the property of our enemy. That's also included in the word chedem. And it could also mean the third idea, that when the bezdin makes a shvua, or a king makes a shvua, that's binding on the people, in the lashon of a chedem, if the people don't keep the chedem, they're all chayiv misa. So I have to say, I'm finished. This is my class. I started off wondering how it was all going to work, and literally 5 minutes, I spent a lot of time today preparing, God knows. I said, oh my God, how am I so stupid? It always bothered me, what is this lashon chedem? In yeshivish, in Lomdus, it's another form of a neder. And the teretz says, chedem doesn't mean I'm giving to the Eibishter. Chedem means I want to destroy. And the Eibishter says, what you want to destroy, I'm taking. So how would you explain it in Avodah? How would you explain it in Avodah? You could explain it, I guess, in a very positive way. When you make a neder, you give of yourself to the Eibishter. But even when you give of yourself to the Eibishter, you keep some of yourself for yourself. When you make a chedem, means whatever I am, I'm giving away to the Eibishter completely. And the Eibishter says, if you choose to give it away to me completely, I will not allow you to destroy yourself. I will make you mine. Let's stop and meet him. Yashkoyach for listening.